Today we have a very special arrangement of leaders here with us, some friends who have many, many years of experience for our youth ministries and have been great influences for us all over the years. In the last 4 videos, what we have shown is just the movement and the shaping of this new normal for our youth ministry post COVID-19. What have we been doing here now and as we move forward into the summer and the beginning of the school year? These are uncertain times. None of us have taken a course in Bible college or online about how to handle a pandemic. So we just wanted to be able to give you comfort and thought that we're all in this together. You are called where you are. God has you by name. If he wanted someone else to be there, they would be there and not you. So be comfortable in your calling and be confident of that. But we wanted you to be confident in your ability to shepherd and to lead by having these apprenticeship style conversations. The first one we had was one on the overall principles. And you can catch that on the YouTube channel where you saw this video, as well as a video on missions awareness and how do we keep missions and the call of God present even in uncertain economic times, as well as empowering our leaders and our parents, because we might have had come up with some responsibilities in our church buildings, and we put some of those down to grab some new ones in this virtual age. How do we manage all that when we go forward? The only way to do that is to empower leaders and empower our parents. So you can catch all those videos along where you saw this video on our YouTube link. But now let's talk about student engagement. How do we disciple our students beyond the Sunday morning and the Wednesday evening? How do we reach our kids and our students virtually in this season?
Hey, well, I feel a little awkward going first with this amazing group of leaders. And Charlie, thank you for including me in this bunch. I'm honored that you even thought of me in this list of names. And it's just amazing to be here. My name is Josh Wellborn. For the last couple of years, I've been serving as the National Youth Director for the Assemblies of God. And prior to that, just lots and lots of years of being a youth pastor and being mentored by some of the people on this panel. So honored to be here.
My name is Jeanne Mayo. And I've done youth ministry for a couple of years. And right now I'm on staff, still boots on the ground at a large church outside of Atlanta, Victory Church. So I'm still the local youth pastor there, and then over middle school, high school, college career, run Atlanta Leadership College, and then have the privilege of starting and running Youth Leaders Coach and the Cadre, which is my effort to leave a little bit of a dent in the emerging leaders.
I'm Johnnie Wilson, and none of the rest of us matter on this panel except for Jeanne Mayo. So after that, it's a tough act to follow, but I'm the executive pastor and lead youth pastor at Faith Assembly here in Orlando. I've been here for 23 years, and it's been a fun ride. Honored to get to be a part of this conversation. I would echo the sentiment that I just vastly respect this whole crew right here. So this should be fun.
My name is Dan Hunter, and I'm just honored to be on this call as well, and just blessed to be able to be a part of the conversation. So many great friends on here, and I respect and definitely look up to and learn from. I'm currently in Houston, Texas at a church called Grace, and I oversee all of our student ministries, youth, young adults, even kids. And so I kind of like look at it all and kind of just lead on that. I still travel and speak in youth ministry. Been in youth ministry for 26 years. And all that means is I'm really old. And
so, guys, let's just move on to this conversation. We know the main elements of new normal, and we've been hearing it, we've been talking about it, but let's zero down on this conversation of student discipleship. Beyond preaching, how do we engage with our students? How do we disciple them? And what are things that have changed now in this new normal? And how can we help our leaders adjust?
No, when we first were facing all of this, we were sitting around with our team just kind of talking about that there were probably some things that we needed to get better at even before the pandemic hit that now was going to force us to get better at. And that would be maybe not leaning on the weekly service quite so much. I would probably say that through the decades that we've been, our weekly services are great, but yet maybe that sometimes could cause you to lean on that a little too much. And so obviously put us in a place where we had to get really good at making personal contact with students. And so we started creating just straight up lists of students and divvying that out to leaders and to staff, and just making, personal contact, DMing through the social media stuff. It's funny because a couple of our departments had on the schedule to do a series on like being cautious with social media and maybe encouraging a social media fast. And then when this all went down, we're like, okay, don't stay on social media now. Please stay on no matter what. Do not go off social media, because that's the lifeline we have to you. So it's funny how just everything is changing so fast. I feel like leading in this season is tough because normally when you're leading, it's like, okay, well, let's choose the best way to do something. And so this way is not so great. This way is a great way. Let's do it the great way. And I feel like in this season, there is no great answer. It's like this option's not good, and this option's a little worse than that option. Okay, well, let's choose the less not good option.
Right.
That's what I feel like leading in this season is. So there's not any, there's not a lot of great solutions out there, but it is forcing us to get better at some things. And also just, we've always challenged kids to have a relationship with God outside of the church. And so we're heavy on that, just challenging kids to daily prayer times, shooting stuff out, saying, hey, challenge you today, go 15 minutes and go up in your room and worship, or take a 10-minute walk around your neighborhood, pray for your neighborhood, just anything like that. And we're staying in contact all the time with our students during this season. And last thing I'll say is I feel like, because the people on this panel will appreciate this, people watching the panel will have no idea for this reference, but the Simple Minds song from the Breakfast Club, that's what I feel like I'm singing to all of our students. Don't you forget about me. Like, hey, we're still here. We're going to be back at some point.
Good.
So.
I like that.
That's awesome. There's a great book that some of you may want to pick up or order on Amazon. It's called Meet Generation Z. Obviously, Generation Z now is youth culture, and it's by a guy named James Emery White. And I just want to echo, excuse me, and of course, I've been a Little Miss Small Group before small groups were cool. I'm still a Little Miss Small Group. But when Johnnie said, gosh, relationship is king. I mean, he said, however you're doing it, discipleship, apart from the context of a relationship, is not discipleship. And everybody knows that. But gosh, it's so simple. But every little relational bit helps. And I'm just going to read a quote, then I'm going to shut up. In the book, Meet Generation Z, it says, Generation Z, the kids we pastor now, is leaderless. Little, if any, personal discussion is coming from their families, and even less meaningful from their attempts to connect with people on social media. They have, and listen to this great line, they have endless information but little wisdom. Thus, they have virtually no mentors. Deep, meaningful relationship has thus become king. And so I just want to echo what the stats are saying. Never before, like I had a girl just walk in my door just now, bringing me, everybody knows I love medicine balls from Starbucks, and gosh, the simplest little things on both sides of the fence, contact wise. Like for us, we're doing our service online like probably everybody is. But then at the end of every service now, we send them to their own Zoom room so they can talk for a little bit. Nothing profound, but it works.
Just to continue on those veins, I think for us, what we've noticed is it's forced us to do things we didn't do and maybe felt like it was just icing on the cake. In other words, just like Johnnie and Jeannie said, I mean, it was just like, okay, let's go online. Let's have small group through Zoom. We need to kind of have a presence every day online. And so all that stuff, it was more like we majored, on Wednesdays in our junior high services on Sunday and the overall big service on Wednesday night. And so for us, it shoved us into this reality going, okay, that doesn't exist. So now what? And so then all of a sudden for us, it became a game, and we've been using this phrase and it kind of hurts me to even say, but it was almost like for us, quantity matters more right now than quality. And not to say that quality doesn't matter. Quality definitely matters. I think we all got excellence.
And
but
we all
quantity
agree.
matters because they're jumping on at different times of the day. In other words, it's not just one slot, Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Now it's like whenever they jump on. And so the quantity that you're doing in discipleship matters because someone may get, just 10% or 50%. And so bursts of quantity matters. And so we've been wrestling with that, just going, man, what does this mean when everything comes back? And it's kind of challenging us to stop and go, man, okay, when Wednesdays and Sundays come back, all that happens. I think we still got to look and go, okay, quantity still matters, especially in this age when they have their phones, they have their devices, computers. And honestly, and we've been kind of talking like this, and this isn't new. I don't even know where we heard it, but the social media is the new hallways and foyers of our youth ministries. Mm-hmm. So instead of, getting your ushers and your greeters and like your student leadership team to be out in the halls connecting with students before and after service, that is social media now. That's our hallways, right? That's our game rooms. That's our foyers. And so our leaders have to be on there in quantity versus quality as well. I mean, you got to spread them out. And so anyway, that's just what we've been wrestling with. And if we're going to disciple them, then we may have specific times where Zoom groups meet, but honestly, it's more about quantity right now because you got to catch them when they're on.
I have a different perspective. I'm not in a local church as a youth pastor anymore, and that's the thing that kills me the most during this, is that in my role, I was in local churches as the guest, and so I really, really, really miss that. I am a parent of 2 teenagers, and I've watched what's worked with them, and I'm pointing that way because they live in this basement that I'm down here Zooming from. But it was Joseph Kellogg that I was interviewing on a Zoom call similar to this. And Joseph said, this really exposed our ministry for the level of relational health that we had. He said, we realized we had to do some good old-fashioned youth pastoring. And so, Jeannie, I, for years, have been a huge advocate of Chase. And I don't know if you still teach Chase in your ministry, but Chase, this climate right now is perfect for Chase. And so, and I'll explain what that is just a little bit. Maybe I should defer to Jeannie, but honestly, it's when leaders chase students. And the youth ministries that are winning with my 2 sons over there, and the youth ministries that I see winning as I do these Zoom calls around the country, are the youth ministries where the youth pastor has enough sense, 1, to be chasing students himself or herself, and 2, is training leaders on how to chase students during this time. Because, Dan, as you said, they're on social media, and so we can blitz them a ton, but you got to get in their world. And so maybe we'll talk about examples of that, but truly this crisis has exposed every youth ministry and every church for the level of relationship and connectivity that they already had, because the churches that had good connectivity, the churches that had a good relational dynamic, and that's not to say that we can't all improve. I think we all can improve in that area, particularly those of us that have led at different venues and different scales and different sizes. But the church that was best equipped with media, that didn't necessarily mean that they translated well into an online service. The church that was best equipped with relational connectivity, that's the church that succeeded in the early weeks of COVID-19. Now, here we are 6 weeks later, at least here in Southern Missouri, and maybe some of that started to flesh out. But that was just an observation that I took personally, because it was like, oh God, like I have been in this a long time, and I have gotten comfortable with preaching and giving high fives, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'll show up, I'll give high fives, and I'll call. And I have a reputation of being relational, so as do you guys. I'll stand around and say, "Hey, I'm relational." Am I, or am I just giving high fives and preaching messages that have a relational twist on them? And so, in fact, my son is actually out with a youth leader right now. He's not sheltering in place, so don't tell anybody. But I said, you can go. I said, just make sure you wear your face mask, because his youth pastor had enough sense to send a youth leader to go after a student. We had youth leaders stop by here the other night when we were really sheltered in place in Missouri, and they were only able to peek in the windows, but they left sodas on our front porch and said, hey, we just wanted to pop by. And so you've got youth ministries at large churches and small churches saying, man, we just need to do some good old fashioned youth pastoring. And for me, the first thing I think of with that is chase. I'll give one takeaway, and it's the starting point, and then I'll let Jeannie fill in some more volume with this. It's just as simple as looking at your volunteer leadership team. For some youth pastors, that's themselves. It's them and their spouse.
Right.
For others, it's them and one other faithful leader. But whoever it is, it's looking at your list of students that you call your community and saying, okay, you're responsible for this person. You're gonna have a meaningful contact with them every week, and I, as the leader, am gonna hold you accountable to that. But also, you as my leadership team are gonna hold me accountable to following up, because even if I've been a youth pastor for 20 years with a youth ministry of 500, I still need to, as Mom says, I still need to smell like sheep. So the one who spends the most time wins. We'll start throwing out our Jeannie-isms here in a minute. But
I was like,
so good. Fill in some of the blanks on that one, Mom. I want to hear some more.
Yes,
I want to give me some more.
There's nothing profound. You guys are way too nice. I stole the term from an old Christian literary piece written years ago, where some writer was talking about the hounds of heaven that chased him down. And my concern from the very beginning was that in the church world, we made it a come to me sport to reach people for Jesus, come to my services, all that stuff. And as I saw in the New Testament, that's not how Jesus did it. He went to them. He recruited. I mean, he was very intentional about going to them. And so that's the word chase implies I'm going after the other person. So again, it's not glamorous. And I've just said over and over, if you don't have enough leaders, a lot of people get really kind of trip over the leadership thing. You go to your sharpest Paul Revere leader kids and you go, here's 3 names, own them, of the same sex, own them, just make contact with them, be a positive influence, because all of us are more invested when we own something. So again, the term is just from that old poem about being chased by the hounds of heaven.
just as a youth ministry service would hide students, I believe that the service hid leaders as well. We got really good at preaching. We got really good at a program. But it's funny, we all say that no one really remembers this sermon, right? We say that, there's some lines. I remember my youth pastor taking me fishing for the first time in my life. And it's one of my greatest hobbies. I remember a youth pastor bringing me to fine arts, and I was the only one because I was 15 and he was brand new. And I remember him driving me, just me and him, because I couldn't get a ride, and he brought us and we tried it. And that's my first time I preached publicly, was at that fine arts. And I can go on, and all of us have those stories. And it's kind of why, even now we're deferring a lot to you, Jeannie, and Mom, in the sense of honor, because we've all been impacted by those moments as well, either from afar or from a conference or from cadre or whatever it may be. And I would even venture to say that all of us have those stories for our students.
One thing we've noticed is that discipleship, a lot of times, and this has been kind of alluded to, but we've looked at it like a program we're launching or something we started, but especially over these last 6-7 weeks, I think it's highlighted the fact that discipleship can be just as organic in spurts versus programs. You need the programs, right? You got to have the organized things, but the little moments, like what you were just talking about, a youth pastor driving you or taking you fishing or whatever, these moments can be overlooked and just thought of as relational connecting. But honestly, they're actually spurts of discipleship that when you place them together, you've shaped someone's life over the course of years. Just they never maybe went to a program, but you did it in 5-minute, 20-minute increments. One little moment of, I know you're upset, but here's how you handle anger. Man, I know that you're scared, but here's how you handle fear. Step up and be bold. Little bitty 1-minute things, like even at fine arts, like we were talking about, we pray for students before they go up. Look, do they really need prayer before they go on stage? We've been praying already, but what you're doing is discipling them in that moment. That's the most important thing. So I would just say, don't overlook the spurts and the moments, because the moments are pieces, little crumbs of discipleship that make up the whole cookie, right?
Yeah, I would echo that, in that we've always said that our definition of discipleship is broader than the programs and the classes, which we do, and those, like you said, massively important. But anytime a discipler is hanging out with a disciplee, that's discipleship that's happening. So then if that's the definition, yeah, we can do that with phone calls. I mean, there's no new profound communication tools in the midst of the pandemic. It's the same stuff we had before this hit. But, phone calls, texts, DMs, Zooms. I mean, we're tapping into all of that and encouraging leaders to make as many contacts as we can. I would just throw this out there, like these students, especially these seniors. My heart breaks for these seniors because they really are going through loss. Like there's probably real grief going on. I was in a convenience store the other day, and one of the workers knew who I was, and she said her little sister is in the youth ministry, and I don't really know. I mean, I might know her. I just didn't know the connection with this sister. But she said something about her. She walked in on her sister last night, and she was crying. And she said, "What's wrong?" And the girl was the younger. She's a high school student. Was crying over an event that got canceled within our ministry. And I thought immediately, like when I heard that we had to cancel that event, I'm like, well, we'll survive. We'll move on. We'll do something in the fall when we get back. But here to this student, like this was big. And then multiply that when you're talking graduation or prom or, a spring sports season or whatever. And so with these kids walking through that level of loss and grief, then it's all the more opportunity for the church to come in and just be a support and just listen to, and just make a contact. We're trying to do as much as we can for our seniors, putting together, baskets and going to deliver them to houses and, try to make as much of a fuss as we can. But when kids are in that pivotal, sorry, that's my dog. When kids are in that pivotal moment, it is a real opportunity for us to come alongside and really, really lift them up in a season when they need it the most.
And let me jump in on that because Johnny's so right. Let me just encourage all the youth and young adult pastors. Gosh, it's cool if you, like Johnny said, they're delivering cool little baskets to their door. That's amazing. Or have something that you mail to them and then say, don't open it until we're all on Zoom together. We've already told our kids, we don't know when they'll allow us to get back together, but hope deferred makes the heart sick. We're already saying to our kids, look, we're going to run a grad celebration for you. And all of you are going to do this too, but this doesn't have to be rocket science. We're saying to them, we're going to do a quick walk across on the platform. We're pumping circumstancing it. We've ordered those sashes that you can get for not much money that go over, and we put the Capitol, that's the name of our high school, on it. So it looks way cool. We've ordered that. We've ordered tassels in the color that our youth group kind of builds its marketing around. So we'll give at the end with our little Capitol logo on it, just simple stuff. We're going to do the walk across, no big long thing. So it's not like a commencement service. Parents will be invited to come if they want to come. And then we're just throwing a wild party. We have the little bit of money that we've been able to save because, like Johnny was probably referencing, we had a spring retreat canceled. And I'm saying, okay, I'm going to take everything and I may even dip into my own funds because exactly what he said, graduation prom, these are big deals. Yeah. And so, again, give them something that you're telling them now you're going to do. And for us, we're doing it on a Friday night. I'm doing it just for my seniors. And then I'm giving them 2 tickets each that they can invite. Obviously, their parents come anyway, but anybody they want to the party, graduation party afterwards, because that'll be the longer part of it. So I'm just saying it doesn't have to be cool, but make them stars for 30 minutes.
Wow. So good.
I like that phrase you just said, Jeannie, make them stars for a moment. That's something we can all do.
But we decided to take the time when the building's kind of empty and we're kind of remodeling our whole youth center. And, a couple cans of paint go a long way. And so we decided that it's going to be just a completely different look when everybody comes back. And we just thought, hey, we don't want anybody getting too used to this church at home stuff once we start meeting. So we want to give them a reason to come back and see something. So that's just going to be part of our kind of reopening. And that when that season of celebration hits, it's going to be also like, hey, brand new look, brand new whatever. And so it's
cool.
Again, it's not spiritual, but it's just something that's going to add to that comeback moment.
Gosh, mine isn't profound either. We're all.
It's all the simple things that usually.
Yeah, it really is. It's all the stuff that, if it's profound, it usually doesn't work for very long. So I would just remind everybody, and again, it's not the big thing, but I'd remind everybody that Generation Z has been, many of them, cheated out of a childhood. They've been raised by TV or their phone, and that's no ditch on parents. And even if they had both parents and they were working, certainly no ditch. But a lot of my kids, there aren't both parents. It's been a really different ride. And so I'm going to say the obvious thing to all of us: childhood stuff appeals to them. Just fun. And so I don't mean you have to be a stand-up comedian. There is a world, not everybody can be funny, but everybody can be fun. I mean, even today, I was doing a chapel with the Atlanta Leadership College gang, and I always get on the Zoom call a little early just to crack up with them. And we were doing stupid stuff. Every Friday we've been having some dumb stuff. Today was idiotic hair day. And I was just kidding around. I was being fun. I wasn't being funny. I was being fun. But gosh, I just want to say at the beginning, like when we do our Capitol, that's our high school stuff. And our service online is so non-impressive. I just want to tell you. It's, if you want to watch it and make you feel good, you'll think, boy, she's bad. She's bad. Whatever. So it's really true. It's me and Javi doing it. CAPITOL Norcross, the Capitol Norcross. But before we start, Javi and I do something dumb. We're making fun of the virus. So like this last week, we were doing social distancing feeding. I'm throwing stuff at people. It was ridiculous. But it sounds, and I'm not the youth pastor that says be a fun and games youth pastor. That's not what I'm saying. I'm so not fun and games. But I just want to remind everybody to reach this generation. Again, you don't have to be funny, but you do have to smile easily. And maybe they're not that hysterical, but laugh anyway. Unless the joke is dirty, then I advise you not to laugh. Just
Don't laugh.
Yeah, don't laugh at that. Don't laugh at that. So that's my non-profound thing. Just be fun.
I think that really does matter. When I was thinking, when Jeannie was talking, we go to camp, in the summer, we all do that. And one thing I think probably every rec director at every camp says is, hey, to the leaders, hey, these games, listen, don't lose your cool over this. This is just to break down walls so that they can connect to God and the thing. They're connected. In other words, the fun kind of was a doorway to something spiritual. And so I think what Jeannie's saying is amazing, because when you think about discipling students, don't forget that the fun really does matter. And like little videos you can do, little battles between students, like online, like through Instagram videos or different things like that, may feel like, well, this isn't discipleship. It's not. It's the doorway to it. Because if you can get kids that don't go to your youth ministry to start checking it out because something silly or something fun is on, that you're kind of placing in a daily routine, it's a doorway, and then they'll catch the serious, they'll catch the deep, and then all of a sudden it's the same concept. And so just thinking through little things that you can do that is just really not funny, but just fun. I love what you said there. One little thing that we've been doing the last few weeks that we're wrestling with how to continue and what to do is online for our services right now, just like everybody. And what we're telling the students is, if you just gave your heart to Jesus through this service, and then we just added another layer of not just that, but if you just need to talk about something going on in your life, text this number and we'll put it up there. And we have all of our leaders. So our admin gets those texts that are coming in, and we call them immediately right there in the moment. So when they text it, the leaders actually place phone calls at the end of the service and say, hey, so I just saw your text come in. You gave your heart to Jesus. I want to pray with you right now on the phone. It's private, one-on-one. And so that's easy. I mean, that doesn't cost you a dime. And it just kind of starts that new salvation discipleship. And then even if they're going through something, you need prayer to talk to a leader, boom. And we've seen students texting in, and we're able to pray with students immediately one-on-one, which is actually, almost even deeper of a conversation than if they were to come forward in a big room, surrounded by music and everything else. So it's just a little thought.
We've always measured action, not attendance. And the thing with social media that I think we need to recognize is that students have the same access to the same audience that we have. Now, if a kid comes into my youth service, they don't have the same access to the audience. In fact, if you come into my youth service and you try and get access to my audience, a volunteer youth leader will come sit by you. And if you keep trying to access my audience, they're going to take you out. So I was so proud of the church in the first early weeks of COVID-19, and still to this day, with how the church was out in front. Like, when you scroll through social media, it was preacher after preacher after preacher after preacher. And you get to, the joke was I attended 3 different services on Sunday, and I had a Sunday dinner after each and every one of them. We were able to consume all this amazing content because the church was out in front putting it out there. The LGBTQ movement wasn't out in front. The political movement was not out in front. In fact, political leaders they're clearly as gun shy as ever, except for a few who shall remain nameless, but who are saying that we can go bowling. I was thinking you could have your youth service in a bowling alley, Jeannie.
I should. Hair salon and get more people. Go ahead.
And so but here's the miraculous thing about right now is that students have access to the same audience that we have access to. Like, I've always had access to my youth service in a way that no kid in my youth ministry did, except for the ones that I gave the microphone to. Well, now they can all take the mic and they can all get this massive audience. And so I'm looking for the student who's been changed by the power of the Holy Spirit, who's gotten the phone call from one of Dan Hunter's leaders and said, hey, God's doing a work in your life. I want to see the student who's going to step up and take this audience, not wait for Jeanne Mayo or Johnnie Wilson or Josh Wellborn or Charlie Allo or Dan Hunter or whoever to do it for them. I want to see the student step up, because the most popular, the biggest voices in social media are young people. Like, I mean, we've all seen the articles. They make millions of dollars playing video games and streaming it. They're making YouTube videos that are garnering millions of views. Well, how many of them are sharing a life-transforming miracle that is the gospel? Again, the leaders on here, we didn't get where we are by measuring attendance. We got where we are by measuring action. And I would just, now is the time, I think, for youth pastors to be saying to every student in Christendom, you have a calling. Every member's a minister, and it's time to get cracking on what God has called you to do. And again, this is just good old-fashioned youth ministry. Engagement has always been our measure of success in youth ministry. Like,